What's going on, guys? I'm Rick Harrison and this is my pawn shop. Today I'm excited to share with you a build we know many of you have been awaiting anxiously ever since the drop of the Nuka DLC. Well, the wait is over, so let's get right into it. This is the Rocketeer. This is the Nuka Girl build that everyone keeps on asking for. The Rocketeer is a quirky yet brilliant intellectual. She yearns to explore and there's no limit to where her ingenuity can propel her. She is a master engineer who takes a hands-on approach in every situation, leaving well-calculated mayhem in her wake. The Rocketeer soars across the battlefield, leaving trails of smoke billowing from the thrusters of her power armor. While this build does benefit from a specialized playstyle, which we'll get into soon, the main aim of this build is to have fun. Everything from her gear to her personality paves the way to a truly unique Fallout experience. As always, timestamps to each section of the video can be found in the description, and first off, we have the backstory. The Rocketeer was born in the serene spans of suburbia just outside of Boston. She had a picturesque childhood, supported by a loving mother and a hard-working father. Her mother stayed home while her father worked for the US Space Administration before transferring to the US military to be a soldier as the significance of the war effort grew. The Rocketeer was less inclined to play with toys and more interested in making her own. Her mother had taught her how to sew, and her father had spent whatever time he had away from the war teaching her humble handiwork during the day, or stargazing with her through his telescope during the evenings. She still enjoyed the characteristic hobbies of the common child, however. She would still play dress-up, stumbling around in her mother's heels and dresses, only she would do this while tinkering with her father's tools in the garage. To her mother's dismay, this often resulted in smudges of oil across the rear of her clothing, where the Rocketeer had neglectfully wiped her filthy hands. As her teen years approached, the Rocketeer's father was selected to play a key role in the Anchorage reclamation for the US Armed Forces. The Rocketeer was a concoction of nerves and excitement when she attended his farewell ceremony. She would never forget the inspiring sight of her father standing alongside his battalion, garbed head to toe in magnificently crafted T-45D power armor. She had never seen anything like it, and when her father saluted to her, she couldn't hold back the tears. Whether they were shed for pride or sadness, she was never able to distinguish. There was a very real possibility her father would never return, but she was too overcome with endearment to entertain that possibility. With her father being across the country fighting a war, and her mother being so preoccupied with household work and mind-numbing television programs, the Rocketeer found she had the backyard and the garage all to herself now. She had taken as many military posters and pamphlets as she could carry on the day of the ceremony, and now the garage walls were covered with artistic depictions of heroes in power armor crushing commies in front of the Star-Spangled Banner. The Rocketeer decided to undertake a grand endeavor. Using junk from the shed and around the house, she was going to make her very own suit of power armor. She hoarded everything for the project, dismantling forgotten furniture, using the legs of wooden chairs and tables for the structural foundation, springs from stained old mattresses for joints and suspension, and even her mother's sewing fabrics for internal comfort. She would get home from school, sneak through the backyard and into the garage, grab a Nuka Cola from her father's fridge, take a swig, and then get to work. One day she noticed a head poking over the neighboring fence. Her next door neighbor was a boy around the same age, and he offered to help scavenge materials for her project. While taking a break from her work on a particularly warm day, she studied the Nuka Cola bottle she'd been drinking from, noticing the intricate and appealing style on the label. She thought it looked splendid, so she decided to spray paint her creation red with white swirls to add a hint of flair. Months later, the Rocketeer decided it was time to test her creation. She hitched a ladder against the wall of the garage, climbing awkwardly into her crude contraption and descended to the roof. The drop was at least 6 meters, but she felt invincible in her suit, despite the creaks and groans it produced with every strained step. Without a second thought, she leapt off the edge, momentarily believing the tin can thrusters attached to her back would drive her to the skies. Gravity quenched that dream, however, and the Rocketeer hit the pavement with a crunch. Junk exploded in every direction, and she felt a moment of intense pain in her ankle before passing out where she lay. The Rocketeer spent the following months in front of the television, her broken ankle raised and held firmly in a plaster cast. Her mother had condemned her stupidity, but the Rocketeer had no regrets. While enduring the lengthy recovery process, she'd seen an advertisement for the new Galactic Zone attraction at the Nuka World amusement park. Her neighbor had invited her to come with him, and she'd been desperate to go, but she was in no state to traverse a busy amusement park. Her studies would soon resume, obstructing her chances of ever getting to see it, but the Rocketeer knew she had no one to blame but herself. The Rocketeer went on to get a double degree in engineering and law, and at the same time her neighbor had joined the military. She revered his decision, and on the day of his departure gave him a shard of her red and white power armor she'd found at the landing site for good luck. They shared a laugh and a spontaneous kiss before going their separate ways. A few years later, the Rocketeer graduated with honors, and her neighbor returned from service with a commendation of bravery. Naturally, they fell in love and retreated to the solitude of Sanctuary Hills to raise a family, and then the bombs fell. Upon emerging from the vault, the Rocketeer suppresses her emotions to focus on practicality. She knows any mental frailty will result in her death, and she is adamant that her hands-on knowledge will give her an upper hand in the unruly wasteland. She will be attracted to the Brotherhood as soon as she sees the airship come across the horizon. They represent everything she admired in the US military, and they embodied the courage and fortitude of the soldiers on the pre-war posters. Their love of technology appeals to the Rocketeer, and the thought of soaring through the skies on the Prydwen alone is enough to bring her to their side. She is intelligent and dexterous, but she prefers to apply that in areas of science that fascinate her, as opposed to subscribing to political ideologies and agendas. She likes the Brotherhood for their technological prowess, not their opinions. While the Brotherhood of Steel representatives talk about their plans for the Commonwealth, the Rocketeer is running the numbers in her head about how many Deathclaws she could kill on impact if she were to jump from the Prydwen to the ground below in the Brotherhood's strongest power armor. When she finally makes it to Nuka World after years of anticipation, the Rocketeer's excitement is spoiled by the infestation of degenerate raiders inhabiting the park. She sees no alternative to purging the park of these raiders. As she does so, she'll relish searching every nook and cranny for valuable items and materials, and the abundance of fresh Nuka-Cola will be enough to fuel her enthusiasm for the duration of her stay at the park. She'll get great satisfaction from making it to the theme park, and it's here she will truly become engrossed in her magnificent dreams of awe-inspiring engineering. It is here that she will find real Nuka-Cola power armor, and also don the Nuka Girl rocket suit, fulfilling her destiny as the quirky, Nuka-crazed astronautical engineer. So now that you know a little bit about the eccentric bombshell, let's take a look at the stats she'll have when she emerges into the post-war world. When you start the game, your special stats will be 2 strength, 1 perception, 4 endurance, 1 charisma, 9 intelligence, 10 agility, and 1 luck. The special book will go into strength in order to access the armorer perk sooner. One of the Rocketeer's major assets is her intelligence, not the kind you'd expect from an inspirational leader or a pragmatist. Her brain power is more unpredictable and sporadic. She is capable of truly innovating, but only if her usual childlike zeal is behind it. Don't expect her to rebuild civilization, but give her an ice-cold Nuka-Cola and a high-tech device and she'll be brimming with surprises. 9 points of base intelligence is certainly justified for this spaced-out scientist. The Rocketeer's agility is similarly impressive. She's always been full of energy and ideas, precise and efficient in her actions. With 10 points of agility, she'll be an adept at executing even the most extreme plans. As a child with the ability to assemble and successfully operate a homemade suit of armor, you can't argue her motor skills. Granted, it did result in broken bones, but would you expect anything less from this ambitious thinker? While endurance begins at an underwhelming 4 points for the Rocketeer, it's her tenacity and determination that pushes her to new heights. As she travels the wasteland experimenting and putting her life on the line, her endurance will become a formidable quality of hers. But we'll get into that soon as we transition to talking about her essential perks. Firstly, from the strength stat line, we have Armorer. This is most certainly an essential for the Rocketeer. She's been a handy woman for as long as she can remember, and has fashioned armor from nothing but household junk. With all ranks of this perk, she'll have access to most of the armor mods the Commonwealth has to offer. Next up, we have Perception. At the base level of 1, this stat isn't exactly viable, so we suggest dropping 3 perk points into the base stat to bring it up to a 4. Then you get the Perception Bobblehead early on to make it 5, opening the door to Demolition Expert. The Rocketeer is a big fan of making an impact. It's why she's drawn to towering suits of pristine power armor, spectacular feats of engineering, and why she has her head so far in the clouds that she's reaching the cosmos. With the Demo Expert perk fully optimized, explosives do double damage and affect a larger area. Mines or grenades shot in vats will explode for double damage, and you also get a throwing arc for grenades. Now, as we said before, your endurance will improve over your time in the wasteland, giving this build more hit points and less action point cost for sprinting. This is very useful for her playstyle, so dropping 4 perk points into endurance will certainly pay dividends in the long run. From the intelligence stat line, we start things off with only one rank of medic. It's not the biggest, major, most impacting thing, but having stim packs heal that extra 40% of health and having right away remove 40% of radiation is definitely useful when the Rocketeer's endeavors get a little too zany. We've also got Scrapper from this stat line. The Rocketeer is incredibly creative when it comes to building things from the ground up. With all ranks of the Scrapper perk, she'll recover more uncommon and rare components when scrapping weapons and armor. Another perk from this stat line is Science. Much like Armorer and Scrapper, we know the Rocketeer is exceptionally practical with her hands. With this perk maxed out, you'll have access to all high-tech mods. The Rocketeer carries her mastery of mechanical engineering into the wasteland, also using her skills to control robots. With all levels of the Robotics Expert perk, she'll have the option to hack robots. This opens the door to possibilities including powering them on and off, initiating self-destruction, inciting them to attack, or giving them specific commands. We'll be making our own robot too, but we'll talk about that in the companion section. Lastly, from intelligence, we've got Nuclear Physicist. Ever since the day she saw her father dressed in T-45D power armor, the Rocketeer's affinity for technology hasn't wavered, and with this perk completed, fusion cores will last twice as long, and she'll have the ability to eject cores from her armor like devastating grenades. Alongside intelligence, her biggest bragging right is agility, and from this stat line we've got Gunslinger. This build relies heavily on one-handed blasters and pistols with low AP costs, so you can't go wrong with this perk. At rank 5, non-automatic pistols will do double damage. They'll have an 8% chance to cripple or disarm opponents. In addition to the low AP cost of pistols, the maximized Action Girl perk allows AP to regen 75% faster. With the Rocketeer's high energy persona and mobile playstyle, this perk is a must-have. Finally, from agility is Gun Fu. This perk will have the greatest impact on the Rocketeer's effectiveness. This perk means that with each consecutive hit in VATS, the damage of the attack will increase. The second target takes 25% more damage, the third takes 50% more, and the fourth and beyond will receive instant critical hits. In order for this to be useful, low AP pistols mentioned above are recommended, and the Rocketeer will chew through AP at high speeds. For more info on how to meaningfully take advantage of the Gun Fu perk, check out our Is It Worth It video posted for Gun Fu. Luck is the last stat line of interest for the Rocketeer, and the first thing to do will be to drop one perk point into the base stat. Once that's done, you can fully invest in the Fortune Finder and Scrounger perks. Boston may be in ruins, but if anyone can find every surviving valuable, it's this persistent young woman. She's always been searching for useful items in her endeavors. Fully undertaken, Fortune Finder will allow the Rocketeer to find more bottle caps in containers, and every now and then her enemies will explode into a shower of bottle caps. It's that kind of spontaneous joy that keeps her ticking. Meanwhile, maxing Scrounger means she'll find more ammunition in containers, and there is a chance she will regain ammo when firing the last round of a clip. Not including gear, but including all bobbleheads, the Rocketeer's special stats will be 4 strength, 5 perception, 9 endurance, 2 charisma, 10 intelligence, 11 agility, and 3 luck. Arguably, the most iconic aspect of the Rocketeer is her aesthetic. She symbolizes the feel of the Fallout universe in glorious fashion, and we believe this is one of the most rewarding aspects of this awesome build. Early on, you'll want to make do with a simple red or sequin dress, or possibly leather armor with a harness if you're looking for the most practical outfit possible. Over this will be her power armor. Until you reach Nuka World, the best bet is the T60 armor with hot rod paint. After making it to Nuka World though, the Rocketeer's endgame aesthetic will include the Nuka Girl rocket suit and 3 sets of interchangeable power armor, one being the original Flames Hot Rod T60 model, the second will be the Nuka-Cola T51 armor, and the last will be the Nuka Quantum XO1 armor. All of the above decked out with jetpacks, of course. With choices like these, the Rocketeer's adventures through the wasteland will never get stale. As for weapons, the primary weapon as well as some alternatives are easy to access early on. The Alien Blaster, a healthy supply of plasma grenades, and any other upgraded laser or plasma pistols you can get your hands on will suffice. After reaching Nuka World, the Rocketeer will want to switch out her normal Alien Blaster for the legendary variant known as Hub's Alien Blaster. She'll then end up with the Nuka Nuke Launcher, and legend has it that you can take off the modification and put it on the legendary Fat Man known as Big Boy to fire 2 projectiles. You'll want to get the Thirst Zapper too and get all the Nuka-Cola recipes and schematics in your travels to make it as powerful as possible. Also consider Nuka grenades and any other Nuka-based weaponry. The Rocketeer finds machines are far more reliable than sentient beings with an abundance of free will, so her companion choice will be a sentry bot built with all the unique Nuka World designs. Her priority for settlements will be to ensure she has ample room to store her power armor suits, make repairs, and build robots. While it isn't a must as exploration calls to the Rocketeer, developing a Nuka-Cola themed settlement to call home seems like just the kind of long-term plan this woman would strive for. Well, there you have it, guys. That was our long-awaited Nuka Girl build, the Rocketeer. If you enjoyed meeting her and plan to bring the build to life in your own game, be sure to show us your support with a like and a share. Nothing motivates us to make the best quality builds possible like getting some love from you guys. If you're new to the channel, go ahead and hit that subscribe button, and in the description you can find timestamps for the video, our social media links, and links to any videos relevant to this build. Thank you so much for watching. I've been Rick Harrison, and I'll see you in the next one.